there, baby, by the way.
Because I'm
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is true. Clap along if you feel like happiness is true. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. You come bad news, so I can miss a dime. Give me all you got and baby, don't hold tight. I'ma warn you that I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you feel what happiness means to you.
Oh, welcome back, viewers. It's James Conn, the guy on the bike. And today, we're in the middle of downtown Brooklyn on Atlantic Avenue. We're going to run into 490 Atlantic. And take a look at an exhibition of paintings by this big galoot, Stephen Maine. Come on out here, Stephen. We're going to take a look and talk a little bit about your show.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad you could make it. On this glorious...
Let me introduce you a little bit. You're Stephen Maine. You're a painter. You've also write art criticism, and you've done some curation. And I think it's actually fitting that we're having
Let me add on a teacher, too.
a teacher, too.
SVA. And,
We're going to look at some of the paintings now. One of the things that I've been interested in with your work for quite a long time now is your technique. Want to talk a little bit about that?
A friend of mine calls it caveman printmaking. And that's pretty good. It's a relief process. It's not the silk screen or screen printing that it may appear to be at first.
So this is not ink or paint that you're squeezing through some kind of fabric or some kind of
It is paint.
patterned
It's not
membrane?
It's essentially a relief print. It's a monoprint, meaning that it's unique rather than addition. But it is a relief print technique, and it's I use a number of different kinds of textured surfaces to transfer the paint from the palette to the surface of the painting.
Do these pieces have titles?
I have a numbering system.
Okay, what's the number on this one, for example?
Let's say
You don't have it memorized.
It's called HP for halftone painting, 11 for 2011. And then the number is 07 for July, and then the last part of the title is an ordinal number referring to the order in which I made them. So I think this is HP, I'm sure you're sorry you asked by now, HP 110710 or something like that. I'm trying to avoid poetic and literary associations, and I don't like untitled.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your concepts of approaching painting in this way? You know, some of maybe the coloristic things that you're dealing with?
The color is very precise, I think, but the drawing element of it is completely arbitrary and a result of happenstance. The color, I've sort of adapted like a binary palette in recognition of the halftone, the photographic halftone that we recognize from printed media, etc. The way that the halftone is a translation of continuous tone, continuous photographic tone, to something that can be printed. So the binary palette, in this case, the one that you're looking at now, is I've expanded the palette to a
Right,
third
because
color.
you've got 3 colors in this.
That's right. Yeah. Well, sometimes you just need a third color.
Now
Triangulation of color can work also very well.
let's walk into the back room and take a look. When you're talking about your method of creating the paintings and dealing with the halftones, one of the things that I've always been kind of fascinated with is the way that the mind kind of looks at these and thinks perhaps that there is some kind of a photographic halftone here, and you're kind of floating around looking for something to coalesce, some kind of an image. And I was wondering if you were aware of the Ratzer paintings that Sigmar Polke has done. They've got a wonderful exhibition up at MoMA now of some of his paintings that he was doing based on photographs, but in a certain way, some of them actually look a lot like this. Maybe I'll even splice in a couple of close-ups of some of those so you can sort of compare that. But these never seem to coalesce, and in that way, they do present kind of a different abstract approach, because the mind keeps kind of searching, but never gets to finish the image. So you just keep kind of wandering, I guess, unless you maybe might find something that you can rest on, but kind of keeps the mind wandering around here. And this was also got 3 colors.
Yeah, this is, see, you're touching on a number of really key things. One is the kind of iconophilia that we carry.
Conophilia? Iconophilia.
Love of image. We want to see something coalesce out of this not random, but arbitrary distribution of dots of various densities. Because I think we're conditioned by 100 years or so, maybe 90 years of photographic halftones. When we see that kind of distribution of light and dark, we are triggered. We're what's the word I want? We're prompted to look for an image. And as an abstract painter, as I have been for my whole sort of 30 years of painting, as an abstract painter, you sort of become very wary of imagery. Try to avoid imagery. Actually, avoid it from tamp it down if something starts to bubble up and look like something. We sort of want to eliminate it, really. So I found myself very interested in the fact that I was very interested in the images that emerged from this kind of, or the promise of the image. It's sort of
the unfulfilled promise.
The unfulfilled promise of the image, yeah. And once in a while, an image does emerge. An image in the sense of subject matter. It's not a representation of anything, so it's not truly an image, but it's a distribution of dots that. Through chance begins to look like a window or a corridor or something like that. And
a
those
breast.
I find less, sorry?
A breast.
Something like that. What, where? Did you see?
I don't know, I'm always looking for one of those, yeah. Let's wrap up
Now
looking
you
at...
made me forget what I was saying.
You're trying to coalesce into an image. Let's take a look.
Hard.
Let's take a look at the book here.
Yeah. This is something that I've been working on, past tense, have worked on for a couple of years. And this particular book is a collection of some, I guess you would say, purpose-made pages for this book. Other things like this are actually quite old, several years old.
What kind of paper are you using there?
Repurposed. Oh, I don't know.
It's nice.
It's all nice paper. I don't work on bad paper, but I work on a variety of different kinds of papers. This is very, very smooth. This is shoe polish. It's all I had at the time. This is Fabriano watercolor paper. So it's a variety of things, and this is actually quite old. This is a what do you call it? Woodcut. That's probably 10 years old now. So I wanted to include some of this historical material, but I didn't want it to become too scrapbooky. So I want there to be kind of a nice sequence to. Oh yeah,
I like the way
sequence to how the pages. And I'm looking at it upside down, and you're looking at it right side up. But that doesn't matter. That's one reason why I have this desk built the way it is that two people can look at it.
And you built the desk as well, right?
Yes, that's my handiwork. Nice. Well, it had to be as ratty looking as the book, so I wasn't I didn't have a very high standard to have to achieve.
Well, one of the questions I want to ask you about is where does the practice of writing art criticism and your painting overlap? You know, I'm wondering, a lot of people are using text in their paintings, but I haven't seen you get into that. Is there a reason?
No.
I mean, where do you see the words and the images departing or coming together?
I don't do. I'm very good at compartmentalizing, and I don't when I'm thinking visually as a painter in the studio. That's a particular way of thinking, and it's it's really not verbal at all, or not particularly verbal. And I think it's really different. It's a different mindset. I can't imagine using text in paintings. I can't imagine. I mean, Pahida, interesting work, but I can't imagine doing a self-consciously textual work about criticism, painting about criticism, or even painting about
Poetry.
the art world.
Do you write poetry?
No,
Oh.
I don't even read poetry. I read Rimbaud, Drunken Poet. It was the first poem I'd read in years. But I can actually, I can imagine including text of some kind in this book. Although I think maybe one reason why it's a little, I think the lack of text might actually be a strength of this book, because we see a book, we know how to work a book, you turn pages, everybody knows how to work a book, but you also expect some text to kind of emerge. And I think it might be kind of surprising and satisfying that there is no text.
Well, lastly, I would ask you, do you feel like you're carrying on some kind of a legacy of abstraction? Anybody else that you feel related to or think are doing kind of similar things?
It's funny that you mentioned Polke. That's not my answer, but you mentioned the halftone.
The Ratzer drawings,
Yeah,
the Ratzer
I
paintings.
think the word is homologous. I mean, I think we both arrived at that kind of mark, at that kind of figuration, but in very different ways. I'm really not. My primary motivation is the halftone, or is the monoprene. Removing my hand from the distribution of material on the surface of the painting, and sort of randomizing, or what's a better word? Removing my taste, my memory, my judgment, my habits of hand and eye, putting that energy into the color for sure, because the color is very calibrated, but
Modulated.
calculated, yeah.
Okay.
But that drawing element is as near to unforeseeable as I can make it.
So in certain ways, though, it sounds like a lot of this kind of comes out of John Cage and his ideas of chance and just throwing the dice and seeing what comes up and then trying to run with it.
Yes, you could go there. I think one difference may be that I put the work through an editing process after I'm finished with it.
Do you edit out a lot of stuff?
Do I what?
Do you end up editing out a lot of stuff?
I throw a lot of stuff away.
Oh.
I throw a lot of stuff. David Ambrose was here earlier today and he said, "What's your mortality rate?"
Do we know?
It's like 60 or 70%.
Oh boy, there's a lot of dead babies out there.
Yeah, exactly. And Cage would say, I imagine Cage would not want to make the judgment about which is better.
Yes, that brings up the question of what is a failure, what isn't a failure. And,
That's right.
And so you're still sort of dealing with taste and your aesthetics and things like that. Anyway, Stephen,
Completely inconsistent.
does the show have a title?
The show is called Halftone Paintings.
Halftone Paintings.
And
Stephen Maine here at 490 Atlantic. Thanks,
thank
Stephen.
you very much for being here.
Yeah, and as always, thank you, Kate, our executive producer. right. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.